So I'm hoping that you've kept up with your work and looked at the videos that have to do with the past perfect simple, because if you haven't done the work on the past perfect simple, the past perfect continuous will probably make little sense. We form the past perfect continuous with had, been. Remember, this word is technically pronounced been. I know most native speakers will say been, but that's not right. Verb ing. And because had is the helping verb here, we simply use not to form the negative. And had becomes the helping verb if you want to form a question. So those are the mechanics of how this tense works. Let's talk about the context. See if I can find an eraser. Okay, good. So what do you remember about the past perfect? How many actions do I need in the past perfect? I need two completed actions, right? So I need two completed actions in the past, and one happens and is completed before the other. This action is the pastor action of this action, which is still in the past. Remember, on a timeline, because time runs in a continuum, on a timeline, all these verbs will be past simple. But when we talk about our lives, we often talk about things that happen out of sequence. We start from the perspective of now, and we look back. And that's why we need the past perfect, so that the listener or the reader knows the sequence of events. So what do you remember about continuous tenses? You know that continuous tenses are used when I want to stress that something is long, or a process, or repeated, or temporary. Okay, none of that changes for past perfect continuous. Let's consider the following examples. How many of you have younger brothers and sisters at home? No offense to anyone, but in my opinion, the very worst sound in the world is a baby crying. And it goes on and on and on, and babies can cry forever. So, I have 3 timelines. And they all are explaining or showing something different. Let's say I have 3 sentences. When I came home, the baby was crying. I have another sentence, the baby had been crying before I came home. So this is sentence A, this is sentence B, and sentence C, the baby had cried before I came home. Which sentence, A, B, or C, matches the timelines 1, 2, or 3? Take a minute, think about it. Okay, we're not live, so that minute is short. If you need to, pause the video. But look at figure 1. So remember, past perfect, I need 2 completed actions in the past. One before the other. In picture 1 is the long action, this action, Is that action completed before this action? No. The action that's short interrupts the action that's long. So this is not past perfect, either simple or continuous. It can't be because the long action is not completed before the short action. So picture one is sentence A. When I came home, the baby was crying. You know, you come home and the baby's in picture 2, my actions are short. So for whatever reason, I don't want to communicate, or I don't need to communicate that crying was long. It's picture C. This is picture A, this is picture C. The baby had cried before I came home. So I don't see that that the baby cried, then I came home. Is finished before I came home. So when I come home, the baby's sleeping like a beautiful angel, and I don't understand why my wife, my fictitious wife, who's been at home with the crying baby, has her hair standing on end and a cocktail in one hand. When I get home, baby's not crying. But in picture 3, which matches sentence B, the baby had been crying before I came home. Now please see that on the timeline, because time is continuous, I write was crying. But when I'm talking about it from the perspective of now, I'm looking back. This action is pastor of this action. The baby had been crying before I came home. And maybe the baby had been crying an hour before I came home. It doesn't matter. I want to stress that, like, the baby cried for a long time. Or maybe the baby